Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I'm your humble host, Fizz Ed Music, and this right here, this is Urban Politics. I want to thank you all for liking and subscribing as you do. Please, as soon as you have a chance after this video, take your little self on over to YouTube, like and subscribe, Fizz Ed Music, Urban Politics. Without further ado, though, I want to jump right into it like a car and drive. All types of tasty and delicious politics for us to sink our teeth into, ladies and gentlemen. First things first, let's talk about housing in America. One of my favorite topics. Why so many Americans feel trapped in their homes by their low rate mortgages. A recent spike in mortgage rates has created a so-called golden handcuff effect. You ever heard of that? Nearly 82% of homeowners feel locked in by their existing low-rate mortgage, according to data from Realtor.com. In the meantime, the shortage of homes for sale is pushing up prices. Yes, they were just talking about that yesterday. Excuse me. We got into a wild situation around here in this country to where people want homes, people then were selling homes, then people were selling homes sight unseen, then people were asking, and it's still going on, asking way over, asking price to get a home, to acquire a home. But now you got people who have changed their minds. Now they don't want to sell their home because they know it's hard to get a home, and they don't want to sell their home and not be able to get another home. This is ridiculous, ladies and gentlemen. So it is what it is. I've talked about it on this show. A lot of people got their stimulus money, got other monies, ran out here, got these homes, and now they can't afford them. So now they're struggling, wondering how they're going to pay this big old mortgage, and they don't have this money coming in from the government anymore. So there's that going on. I told a story about how, my sister and her husband had, called themselves purchasing a house, about ready to close on it. Then some people from out of town came in with some big bread and asked like something crazy, like, $10,000 over the asking price, and snatched that home right up from under them. I heard something even crazier yesterday. There was a young couple in New Jersey looking to buy a home, and they just got sick of constantly being outbid or whatever and not being able to get a home. So they got creative. The home that they finally actually did acquire, what they did was, number one, they said they came in $50,000 over the asking price, and then they wrote the sellers a letter talking about how they'd be so pleased to get this house, and please let them get this home, and they'd be good to the house and all this other stuff. They end up getting the house. So sometimes little stuff like that, little creative stuff like that, is just a little thing you need to push you over the top. So end up getting that house, but $50,000 over the asking price. I think that's what really did it. I'm sure that letter was a nice little, little icing on the cake, but $50,000 more than what I'm asking for it, I'm probably going to go ahead and sell that person my house, right? So it's a shame that we're in that situation, but that's what's going on with this housing market. It's bad out here. So I don't know. I guess if you got a home, you might want to just sit on it now, see what happens in a minute here. The housing market's always fluctuating around here. So we'll see what happens. Next year, things could be totally different. I expect they will be totally different. So I would tell a lot of people out here looking for a home, take heart. Don't get too discouraged. I myself was looking to, hopefully be looking for a home in a year or so here. I'm expecting the market to turn around. Things will change. They always do. You know what I'm saying? That's the only thing that's constant around here is what? Change. That's the only thing that you can set your clock to. Things are not going to be the same. All right. Anyway, moving on. Oh, wow. Let's talk about the 20 most banned books. These books are the most banned books. Now, books get banned all the time for whatever reason. And you'll see here that some of these books, you'll ask yourself, why in the HE double hockey sticks did they ban that? Because that's what I thought too when I heard this list. But then if you really, really think about it, and we'll go through the list here, and I haven't read all of these books, but a few of these books I have read. And the ones that I have read, I couldn't understand why they were on the list. But then, like I said, I get thinking more and more about it, and I could kind of understand how maybe there's a government or maybe other people who don't want necessarily people reading this and getting some of the ideas that these books can spark. Check out the list. Okay, list right here. 20 most banned books. Number 1, To Kill a Mockingbird. What? You heard me right. To Kill a Mockingbird. Number 2, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. Number 3, Of Mice and Men. Number 4, Lord of the Flies. Number 5, I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings. That is the autobiography of Maya Angelou. You know what I'm saying? Why is that banned? The Great Gatsby. The Color Purple, Catcher in the Rye, Adventures of Huckleberry Finn. I think we all know why, because everybody, you know what I'm saying, all up in arms about the N word that gets used a whole lot in the Adventures of Huckleberry Finn. And then 1984 was that George Orwell, Big Brother is Watching, 1984. So you go through this list, and you think, is it why some of this stuff banned or whatever? Now, I read To Kill a Mockingbird. I was actually supposed to be in the play in high school. I ended up not doing it because of a whole lot of other crap. You know what I'm saying? I ain't going to lie. I kind of felt as the whole connotation of it was kind of racist because I was supposed to be the guy who was locked up or whatever, and then the mob was coming after him and all that other crap. And that is what it is. But I don't know why this book would be banned. It deals with stuff. It deals with issues of race and stuff like that. So why ban this? These are things that we need to teach. If we do not teach our history, we're what? Doomed to repeat it. So there's that. Of Mice and Men. Dang, I just think that's a good book, right? When George was killing the rabbits or whatever because he pet them too hard, and then he killed the rabbits, and then in the end he ended up killing his brother and stuff because what had happened, I think he had hurt somebody or something, so while the police were coming to get him, whatever, he went ahead and put him out of his misery. I'm paraphrasing this stuff, ladies and gentlemen. Please go read these books. But my point is, I think it's just some of the themes and stuff in these books, and I'm like, why is this banned? These are not bad things. Let me look at Lord of the Flies. I think that's like about some little kids getting stuck on an island or something like that. And then they come up with a hierarchy of who's going to be the leader and, you know, how their society is going to look and be ran and stuff. I know why the Cage Bird sings. Okay, that's about Maya Angelou. And I think coming up some stuff that happened to her to make it where she didn't speak, I don't think, until like 7 years old or something like that. So that was a little girl had a rough life. But these are still things people need to read about. Still things people need to be aware of. The Great Gatsby, I just thought that was a good book. I thought it was good. Color Purple, woo! There's a whole lot of rough themes in there, ain't it? We dealing with incest in The Color Purple. We're dealing with racism in The Color Purple. We're dealing with classism, sexism. Whole lot of stuff going on in The Color Purple. With that said, it's a story that needs to be told. And I think Color Purple is in the fiction section. But me and my mother and other people in my family were always like, that ain't no fiction. Somebody lived that. Plenty of people lived The Color Purple. So even if it is in the fiction section, there's plenty of brothers and sisters who live that in this country. Catcher in the Rye. I remember reading that too. But I remember that being about a guy who was a hockey player, and I think he ended up losing weight, but he was a goalie because he was real big, so he could, you know, defend the net real good, but then somehow he ended up losing weight. And wasn't in this book, Catcher in the Rye, in the pocket of the guy who killed John Lennon, I think? I don't know why that's coming to my head right now, but I'm pretty sure that's true. That, you know what I'm saying, the guy who murdered John Lennon, Catcher in the Rye, a copy of it was in his pocket. I don't know what that means. Adventures of Huckleberry Finn. We already know why this is a banned book. The N-word's all through it. But guess what? That is true to history. That's historically accurate, right? That's what D.L. Hughley said about Django. He said a movie set in slavery times that profusely uses the N-word, you know what I call that? Accurate. Exactly. Historically accurate. So ain't nothing wrong with it. You know what I'm saying? It is what it is, man. We got to study our history or we're what? Doomed to repeat it. If you ask me, we're repeating it because we don't study it. So in 1984, I remember reading that. I remember seeing the movie. I know that's about Big Brother watching you and all that type of stuff and about government control. And that's just a good book too. You know what I'm saying? Why would that be banned? I can understand why some people would want that banned because they don't want people thinking about a Big Brother watching them or what a government is or isn't doing for them. So I could get that too. But I don't agree with none of that. How are those 20 most banned books? We shouldn't be banning any books, ladies and gentlemen. And there's plenty of books. They got plenty of stuff in them that I don't agree with, right? Plenty. But guess what? This is America. You know what I'm saying? There's a little thing called freedom of speech. I might not agree with what you're saying, but I'll defend to the death your right to say it. So we can't be banning books, ladies and gentlemen. That information needs to be out there for all that want to consume it. You know, for all that want to consume it. Because you read a book, you don't have to necessarily agree with it or align with it, but it's good to have that knowledge. It's good to know that somebody else was thinking that way. And also, sometimes when you hear another person's perspective, you know what I'm saying? Or read another person's train of thought, then it can make you more thoughtful about a subject. Starts putting thoughts in your head that you didn't have that actually broadens your horizons, actually adds on to your intelligence. So that's the reason we should not be banning books, ladies and gentlemen. All right, moving on. Let's talk about salaries in America. It said, here's the salary Americans say that they need to feel comfortable or financially secure. Americans need a salary of roughly $233,000 a year on average. Bankrate found That's over 3 times the median U.S. household income of about $71,000 a year, according to the Census Bureau. Now, first of all, who making $71,000 a year? That ain't me. These are averages, ladies and gentlemen. Because when I read this, I was like, whoa, man, these numbers is what? But these are averages, right? So this is the quote unquote average salaries, you know what I'm saying, in America. 71,000. Who making that? That's good money right there, man. Shoot, I need that job. Anyway, although 1 in 3 Americans say low pay is the reason they don't feel secure, other factors are adding to the anxiety. Here's a look at what's holding Americans back from financial security. Why Americans don't feel financially secure. Let's examine it. I said the biggest contributors to Americans' financial insecurities may be things outside of their control. Over 60% of respondents said high inflation was one of the reasons they didn't feel comfortable financially. I get that. Other factors include the economic environment, which 48% of surveyors cited cited rising interest rates by 36% of respondents. So 36% of respondents said that rising interest rates was a reason they don't feel financially secure. Americans' personal finances aren't giving them much more comfort. Over 40% of consumers say insufficient emergency savings and retirement funds contribute to their financial insecurity. That's not too surprising, considering that nearly 40% of Americans wouldn't be able to cover a $400 emergency with cash savings, according to the latest Federal Reserve survey. As for retirement savings, 60% of Americans say they don't have a retirement-specific savings account, according to a recent NerdWallet survey. So this isn't good. I had heard that a long time ago, and me and a buddy were talking about that, and I said that to him. I was like, you know, they're talking about on the news how they said, I forget what, maybe 90-some% of families, they're saying they're just one $400 emergency from knocking everything all out of whack. You know what I'm saying? And then he laughed at me. He said, yeah, I know, because he said, I'm one of them. We're one of them. And I laughed. I said, me too. I'm one of them too. Let a $400 emergency happen around here. And we're going to be struggling. Now, glory be to God, I'm not in that situation these days. But that was a little while ago. But I get it. I was there at that point, and we laughed about that and talked about that. But unfortunately, that is the sad situation for most Americans, most families around here, most households around here. $400 catastrophe. And that's not much, ladies and gentlemen. Shoot, I have a Ford Patriot. It costs $400-$500 just to get brakes all the way around my car. If I don't get brakes around my car, I can't drive my car. If I can't drive my car, I can't go to work. If I can't go to work, I can't make money to pay the rent. There's your domino effect, you know what I'm saying? That TI is life. So that's how it happens sometimes. You know, you had that $400 or $500 emergency, the brakes all go out on the truck. What we gonna do about that? Now somebody missing work. Now you're just getting further and further and further behind on your bills and everything else you got to do. So it ain't no joke out here, ladies and gentlemen. It ain't no free lunch. And I can understand why a lot of people would have that huge number. $233,000 a year is what they would need to feel financially secure. I hear that. I don't really need that. Just give me a lump sum. I ain't gonna lie. Just give me a meal ticket. Actually, give me a bill ticket. Lady at work said, I said, man, I need that meal ticket. She said, nah, we need that B. We need that bill ticket. I agree. Forget the M. We need that B. Give me $1 billion. I'll probably be good. You know, give me that one. I just need that bill ticket. Not that meal ticket, the bill ticket. And I'll be good. Just one. I don't need several billion like Warren Buffett or some of these other guys. I mean, that'd be great. But just $1 billion and I'd be fine. But I can understand $233,000, of course. It's rough out here. It really is. And you know what I'm saying? And with mortgage rates going up, rental rates going up, cost of living going up, inflation going up, everything going up. But what they paying you an hour, they constantly want to make sure that's going down, right? $15, $16 an hour, that sounds pretty good. It is pretty good. It's better than it used to be, but it ain't enough. And they had said that if pay rates had kept up with the cost of living, that the minimum wage would be $25 an hour. It should be. It should be all day. That should be minimum wage. That should be the least people are allowed to get paid is $25 an hour. And that's a whole nother conversation about how that would have to be passed on to the consumer and all that other garbage. But it is garbage. If these places wanted to pay people that, they could, but they don't want to because they're greedy and they've been keeping profits for themselves. And we, the American people allow them to get away with it. We don't raise a stink about it. We don't say anything about it. But in real life, that's garbage. That's garbage. And if we know that the cost of living has raised and the minimum wage should be $25 an hour, then we should be screaming that from the rooftops. You know, we should be Democrats should be screaming that from the rooftops, but they're not doing that. Why not? Anyway, moving on. Last point before I get on up out of your hair on this Sunday. Let's talk about 4 reasons why we can't stop homelessness. A lot of y'all know that homelessness is kind of a little bit of an obsession of mine. There's a time when I really got deep into the weeds on homelessness and studied it, and then studied what's the difference between being homeless and couch surfing. Because at one time in my life, I was a couch surfer. I didn't have no apartment or no home in my name. I was just going from couch to couch. Just couch surfing, that's essentially homelessness. You know what I'm saying? So I kind of really got into studying it and researching it. And here's 4 reasons why they said we'll never end the crisis that is homelessness. Why can't we stop homelessness? 4 reasons why there's no end in sight. Number 1, I said more people than ever are being housed, but an even higher number are falling into homelessness. So there you go. So a lot of people are being housed right now, but still a lot of people are still falling into homelessness. Why is that? Easy. It's not hard to do. You know, most people are 1 paycheck away from being out on the street anyway. Let something happen to that 1 paycheck. And you know, things are so fragile around here. So my dad used to always talk about that. Life ain't nothing but a house of cards. He said most people you see, that's what they are. A house of cards. He said let 1 thing go wrong. You know what I'm saying? Let 1 thing go wrong. Let them not get a paycheck, or let the paycheck be late, or let the hours be wrong, or all the money ain't there. Boom, the house come falling in. So that's just how it is around here. A lot of people, their finances and their life, everything is very fragile. They're walking on eggshells. Easy to break those eggshells, right? So number 2 is rents are out of reach for many. And millions of affordable places have disappeared. Where are they at? Where they at? Me and a good friend were just talking yesterday because he's looking for places to stay. And he said that he had said to his sister, like, yeah, I'm finding all these places that are, you know, some of these efficiencies that are $450, $500. She said, really? Where? He said, I don't know. He said, I was just putting in prices and I was getting back different places, but I didn't even check the areas. Then he told me when you check the area and you check the, the people's comments and stuff, if you like rats and roaches, and he said, he said they got a whole section. If you like rats and roaches, go here, or high crime areas. So that's a problem. That's a problem. To deal with housing that's in high crime areas, you have to deal with what? The crime that's in high crime areas. And that's a whole nother conversation, ladies and gentlemen. But that's what you get. When you get people who are poor all living around each other, well, then they're going to perpetrate on people who are around them. So that's people in the area. So if you're poor, you robbing people in your environment. You're not going to be poor in Columbus and drive all the way to Upper Arlington to rob somebody, or drive all the way to Gahanna to rob somebody. You gonna rob the guy right next, because I ain't got to take a car to rob him. He was right next door. It's easy to rob him. That's sad. That is what it is, but that's what you get with a lot of that type of stuff. So affordable housing is just more and more out of reach. There are no caps on rental rates. I always talk about that on this show. There are no caps on rental rates. So if you rent a property, and I was a landlord, I know, if you are renting a property, you can rent it for whatever people are willing to pay. And that's what people do all the time. Go downtown and see some of these places that are $3,000 a month, $4,000 a month, $5,000 a month, because somebody's willing to pay that. TI is what it is, right? Republicans would call it the free market, but man, we got to do something around here because people can't afford to live. There's a lady on NPR. She talked about how her and her husband are teachers, and I think this was in California, another place that's horrible with housing. And she had said that her and her husband were full-time teachers. Both of them worked 40 hours a week. Couldn't afford to live. Couldn't afford anywhere to live. Both of them are working 40 hours a week, and they're teachers. They can't afford anywhere to live on that money. So that is the problem in this country. There's no cap on these rental rates. People just don't have, there just is no affordable housing. Zoning laws and local opposition make it hard to build housing for low-income renters. We talked about that. NIMBY, not in my backyard. So people always say that, yeah, we need low income and affordable housing. Now, there is a difference between low income housing and affordable housing. I was having a conversation with a guy, and he was like, yeah, all these liberals in downtown Columbus, and they talking about this affordable housing, and all they do is run around and put up all this Section 8 housing. Listen, there's a difference, right, between Section 8 housing and stuff and affordable housing. Now, some of that housing is rent-based, right? Section 8 is income-based housing, right? It's income-based. So they base what your rent will be on what you make at a job or whatever, okay? But then there's low income housing, or just housing that's not priced so high. So what I'm talking about is apartments and units that maybe start at $400 and only go to $600. We need stuff like that around here because there's not a lot of that. And there's definitely none of that in a decent area or a decent neighborhood. So that's what needs to happen. Now, they had said they were going to make some housing like that over here by the old bakery over here by, oh my Lord, not too far from where I'm living now, kind of by the new Columbus Public School headquarters in that area, kind of by Cleveland Avenue and what is that, Columbus State and all that over there. They said that they was going to make that affordable housing. That's not low-income housing. Low-income housing is stuff like Section 8 income-based housing. They're talking about, housing that's just going to be, affordable. Just going to be affordable housing. Those are two separate things. But people don't like hearing that because when they do, all they can think of is Section 8, drugs and crimes and baby mamas. Just being real. And that's all they hear. When they hear affordable housing, they hear in Section 8. Which is not a bad thing, which is not a bad program. And one does not beget the other. But I'm telling you, these are the stereotypes that exist. So when people hear those words, that's what they think. Because that's what this older guy had said to me. He's like, that low-income housing, that Section 8. And I'm like, well, those are two different things. They could have some housing there that's affordable housing that has units that start at like $400, $500, $600 a month for people who are working every day and just need a nice, clean place to live. So hopefully that's what they get cracking over there. But that's what needs to get cracking. Number 4, pandemic aid programs that helped keep many people housed are winding down. Winding down. They've been winding down. They've been gone. Those programs are over. They've been over. Because the pandemic, knock on wood, is over. Knock on wood, is over. So those programs have been over, and like I said, I don't know what those people were thinking anyway, that money wasn't going to last forever. That money was good while the government was giving it, and now that it's gone, it's gone. I would hope that some people were saving it. It looks like nobody was saving it. You don't ever hear about anybody who saved that money and did something with it, because people was just blowing that money because it was just coming in or whatever. But people had to know that spigot at some point was going to turn off. At some point, the government was going to turn off that spigot, and they have. And if you stuck in a house because you was paying the rent or paying the mortgage with this money you was getting from the government, well, you was an idiot, because you had to know that was going to end at some point. They said we really need, Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass, this was a quote from her. She said, we really need to normalize the fact, unfortunately, that we're living in a crisis. She said a press conference announcing a renewal of her emergency declaration on homelessness. So what's going on? Advocacy groups and researchers say a big driving force is the decline of affordable housing, a problem decades in the making, but one that has grown significantly worse in the past few years. And these are a few ways it's playing out. That's what it is. Yeah, these are just a few ways that it's playing out. People are not able to get homes. The homeless population has just skyrocketed, especially in California. You know what I'm saying? So what they say, 30% of the homeless population in America is in California. I feel that. If I was homeless, California would be the place to be, for no other reason than the weather, Well, I'm going to be homeless and be cold. I can at least be homeless and be warm. If I'm going to be a bum, I'm going to be a beach bum. You feel me? Okay. Well, ladies and gentlemen, what can I say? That is my time. This is Urban Politics. I'm your humble host, Fizz Ed Music. I'd like to thank you all for liking and subscribing as you do. Please, as soon as you have a chance, take your little self on over to YouTube, like and subscribe, Fizz Ed Music, Urban Politics. And as always, ladies and gentlemen, see you around like a donut.